David Brewster here on the 3 for All, and this is 3 Mark Knopfler Licks from 1979, and I've had a lot of requests to feature Mark in the music of Dire Straits. Dire Straits formed in London, England in 1977 and went on to become one of the most popular rock bands in the whole world. I think they've sold like 130 million albums worldwide. And Mark's definitely a very expressive, very respected, dynamic player, great tone, great feel, great phrasing, great ideas definitely on his guitar. And there's just something about his playing, it's definitely struck a chord and resonated with a lot of his fans. And definitely, it seems like every 5 to 10 years there's this resurgence and respect for Mark Knopfler and Dire Straits. So Mark's playing technique is elusive and a little misunderstood because he's a fingerstyle electric guitarist. And fingerpicking and fingerstyle techniques are very common on steel string guitar or nylon string guitar. But on electric guitar, it is a little unusual, especially, years ago or decades ago. It was kind of unusual to see, a fingerstyle electric guitarist. But in more recent years, there's a lot of players that have ditched their pick. Of course, the mighty Beck, even players like Richie Kotzen, Greg Howe. It seems like they've kind of thrown their pick, in the trash, and they just use their fingers. So it is very interesting. And here's an image with some very influential and famous, fingerstyle electric guitarists. Just a heads up, there's a few examples in this lesson using delay, and I'm using the MXR Carbon Copy Mini, and also there's no picks at all in this lesson, so you can set your pick aside or throw it, don't throw it away, because you definitely want to use it, but explore, this fingerstyle technique on electric guitar. The first lick's the snappy A minor pentatonic lick using the fingerstyle technique, something like this. One more time. So if you really watch the footage, you can see that Mark uses his index and middle a lot, and occasionally he'll sneak that thumb in there. So it's really just this claw technique, as it's nicknamed, because it almost looks like a claw, from a bird or a talon or whatever. But I do find myself using the thumb and middle a lot, and then occasionally kind of introducing that middle finger. It does seem like Mark attacks more with his middle and index, and then occasionally uses that thumb in there too. So you can experiment with this. There's not really a set way of doing it. But slowly, just think of A minor pentatonic right here. And we're basically doing this really standard, bending lick at the start. So right there, I'm literally using my thumb for the bend, and then my index middle, and I'm going back to that B string with my thumb right there. And then you hear him actually reach up and grab the C sharp and pull off that A. So it's got this bright, major third right there with that C sharp. And then after you do that kind of pull off, then you're going to grab this G and bend that up to A. And then you hear this little, so really slow. And it's got a really different flavor and sound with your fingers like that. And try to snap it as much as you can. And you can snap actually by pulling the string up, away from the pickups. And that's where you kind of get that really snappy sound. And right there, I'm actually using my thumb, but I'm picking the string and pulling it up, toward, like away from the pickups, to kind of get that snap sound. Really cool and expressive too. Alright, the next lick's this really expressive melodic phrasing, and we're in the key of B minor. And you can definitely hear the delay. I've kicked on that MXR Carbon Copy Mini, and we got this. One more time there. And I really just like this kind of, dreamy kind of melodic phrase. So you can kind of think of a modified, it's definitely B minor pentatonic, at the core. We've got this. So you're kind of grabbing that G in there. You know, it's a little bit out of key, but really cool. And then right here, that's really out of key. So there's F to D right there. And then you hear this B move to the flat 5, which is basically that F note. And then you're grabbing that E back to the B. So I just like that kind of oddball phrasing too, where it's drifting in and out of the key or the tonality. And when you grab those, grab that F and D, snap the string right there. And I don't mean break it, I mean pull it away from the pickups again. You know, really interesting phrase. Here's another melodic phrase using delay, and we're still in B minor. It's actually technically from the same song, but it's like this. One more time there. And right there you can see we're kind of flirting. Once again, we're kind of drifting in and out of that B minor tonality, because there's B minor pentatonic right there. But you can definitely hear it starting here. And then you actually hear it move to F sharp minor pentatonic right there, which is out of key, but it sounds really cool in there. And then you basically hear him grab this E and he bends it up a half step at the end, you know, that E to F. So I really like that, where it starts with a whole step bend, you know, E to F sharp, and then come down that F sharp minor pentatonic. And then the last time he's doing that half step bend there. So one more time there. Now, to help you become more comfortable using this technique and this idea, you know, fingerstyle on electric guitar, I highly recommend, you know, practice scales and arpeggios and licks and riffs and fills and parts of solos and really anything that you practice using a pick. But lose the pick and try it with your fingers just to see what happens. So let's move to a minor pentatonic. Let's just move it to D minor. You know, the tried and true, you know, scale that wouldn't die here. And we're going to play it like this. And there I'm literally just plucking once per string and using legato, you know, hammer on some pull-offs. So slowly. And I am pretty random as far as what finger I'm using. I do kind of lead with the middle finger, but then the thumb pops in and the index finger pops in, you know, just kind of when they're feeling it. Take like really standard, you know, licks. Like think of like this really standard bending lick, but play it with your fingers like this. You know, that's really different to hear it that way. And you could variate all those, you know, Freebird licks and Jimmy Page licks and all that stuff. Here's a bonus exercise I'm going to include here that's definitely in the style of Mark's playing, and it's kind of based around variations from some things you'll hear in Sultans of Swing, you know, the very famous Dire Straits tune. And something like this. So really slowly you can see I'm actually just using my middle and thumb as far as the finger picking. And then we're starting here with this D minor arpeggio, kind of an implied, you know, shape there. And then a little piece of B flat major right there. Move that up a whole step, there's C major. And then a little piece of F major. Move up a little higher, you've got this. And then you're going to move back to this. So it's kind of like a little piece of D minor right there, and then revert back to that F major. And then go back to that C major right there. So one more time here. And that's way easier to play with a pick, but definitely try it with your fingers. Here's a bonus lick from this live footage, and it's a signature melodic phrase, played fingerstyle. And definitely Mark plays a lot of, licks and phrases like this. Something like this. One more time. So we're basically in D minor. And we're starting here. So he's always starting on that D note right there. And I'm definitely kind of, moving between middle and thumb. I think I did occasionally use the index there. Actually, that was all middle and thumb, my bad. And then start the phrase again. And it is kind of unusual to always begin those phrases with that D note. And I also like how he's bending that G up to A. And he bends it up a whole step and then plucks it again and then releases it. Really expressive. So one more time on this lick. That's going to wrap this look at 3 Mark Knopfler licks from 1979, and definitely Mark has a very loyal and dedicated fan base that just love Dire Straits and his music, his solo releases. He's done a lot more aside from just Dire Straits. But there's just really something interesting. There's this kind of artistic glow around Mark Knopfler, and it's always been there. And definitely, a very important guitarist, that hit the scene in the late 70s and then the 80s. Of course, by the time MTV, came into vogue or whatever, Money for Nothing was played on MTV, like 50 times a day for years. It even quoted, I want my MTV in the song. I'll admit I was very surprised to see just the outpour of requests to feature Mark Knopfler. I was really, impressed and kind of glad to see that, where it's like, yeah, I'm totally going to go there. And now we've gone here. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Midnight Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.